The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin, a First Chapter Friday read aloud video with the Word Nerd. Today, as you listen, watch for the story quote that will appear on screen. Write it down word by word and then follow the instructions given to you by your teacher. Stay all the way to the end to see if you've written it down correctly. All month long, I'm going to be focusing on books that have the word game in the title. The Hunger Games, The Inheritance Games, The Westing Game, Ender's Game, and Change the Game. One last thing before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Enner's 4th graders in Colby, Wisconsin. I'm so glad you guys are here for this First Chapter Friday video. Hi, my name is Amanda Zieba. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd, and another First Chapter Friday video. This week I'm going to be reading to you from The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. And before I do that, I want to tell you 3 things about this book. Number 1, if it's in your classroom and it doesn't look like this book, it's okay. It's got multiple different covers. That's actually not the first thing. That's a pre-thing. But once you get this book, 3 things I want to tell you about it. Number 1, it won the Newbery Award in 1975, which is very cool. Number 2, it was written by Ellen Raskin, who, like me, was born and raised in Wisconsin. And I don't know about you, but when I find out that somebody who has done something very cool, like write a book or win the Newbery Award, when I discovered that they were from the same state that I'm from, it makes me feel like the cool things that they've done are possible, because if they could do it and they were raised here, then maybe I can do it too. So, or maybe it's just a little Wisco State pride. I don't know, but I think it's really cool that Ellen, like me, is from Wisconsin. The third thing that I want you to know about this book is that it was made into a movie in the late 90s. You might not know that because the movie was called Get a Clue. It has a different name than the title, The Westing Game, but it is in fact the same story. So check that out. I always like to read the book first and then do the movie second, but it's up to you, however you want to experience the story. What is this story about? I'm glad you asked. Let me read you the back so you know. A highly inventive mystery begins when 16 unlikely people gather for the reading of a very strange will of the very rich Samuel W. Westing. They can become millionaires depending on how they play a game. All they have to do is find the answer, but the answer to what? The Westing Game is a tricky and dangerous game, but the heirs play on through blizzards, burglaries, bombings. Ellen Raskin has entangled a remarkable cast of characters in a puzzle-knotted, word-twisting plot filled with humor, intrigue, and suspense. Let the game begin. All right. The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin, Chapter 1, which is called Sunset Towers. The sun sets in the west. Just about everybody knows that. But Sunset Towers faced east. How strange. Sunset Towers faced east and had no towers. This glittery, glassy apartment house stood alone on Lake Michigan's shore, 5 stories high. 5 empty stories high. Then one day, it happened to be the 4th of July, a most uncommon-looking delivery boy rode around town slipping letters under the doors of the chosen tenants-to-be. The letters were signed Barney Northrup. The delivery boy was 62 years old, and there was no such person as Barney Northrup. Here's what the letter said. Dear lucky one, here it is, the apartment you've always dreamed of at a rent you can afford, in the newest, most luxurious building on Lake Michigan, Sunset Towers. Picture windows in every room, uniformed doorman, maid service, central air conditioning, high-speed elevator, exclusive neighborhood near excellent schools, etc., etc. You have to see it to believe it. But these unbelievably elegant apartments will be shown by appointment only. So hurry, there are only a few left. Call me now at 276-7474 for this once-in-a-lifetime offer. Your servant, Barney Northrup. P.S. I'm also renting ideal space for a doctor's office in the lobby, a coffee shop with entrance from the parking lot, and a high-class restaurant on the entire top floor. 6 letters were delivered. Just 6. 6 appointments were made, and one by one, family by family, talk, Barney Northrup led the tours around and about Sunset Towers. Take a look at all that glass. One-way glass, Barney Northrup said. You can see out, but nobody can see in. Looking up, the Wexlers, the first appointment of the day, were blinded by the blast of morning sun that flashed off the face of the building. See those chandeliers? They're crystal, Barney Northrup said, slicking back his black mustache and straightening his hand-painted tie in the lobby's mirrored wall. How about this carpeting? It's 3 inches thick. Gorgeous, Mrs. Wexler replied, clutching her husband's arm as her high heels wobbled in the deep plush pile. She too managed an approving glance in the mirror before the elevator door opened. You're really in luck, Barney Northrop said. There's only one apartment left, but you'll love it. It was meant for you. He flung open the door to 3D. Now, is that breathtaking or is that breathtaking? Mrs. Wexler gasped. It was breathtaking, all right. 2 walls of the living room were floor-to-ceiling glass. Following Barney Northrop's lead, she oohed and ahed her joyous way through the entire apartment. Her trailing husband was less enthusiastic. What's this, a bedroom or a closet? Jake Wexler asked, peering into the last room. It's a bedroom, of course, replied his wife. It looks like a closet. Oh, Jake, this apartment is perfect for us, just perfect, Grace Wexler argued in a whining coo. The 3rd bedroom was a trifle small, but it would just do fine for Turtle. And think what it means, having your office in the lobby, Jake. No more driving to and from work. No more mowing the lawn. No more shoveling the snow. Let me remind you, Barney Northrop said, the rent here is cheaper than what it pays to keep your old house up in upkeep. How would he know that? Jake wondered. Grace stood before the front window where beyond the road, beyond the trees, Lake Michigan lay calm and glistening. A lake view. Just wait till those so-called friends of hers with their classy houses see this place. The furniture would have to be reupholstered. No, she'd buy new furniture, beige velvet, and she'd have stationery made blue with a deckled edge, her name and fancy address in swirling type across the top. Grace Windsor Wexler, Sunset Towers on the lakeshore. Not every tenant-to-be was quite as overjoyed as Grace Windsor Wexler. Arriving in the late afternoon, Seidel Pulaski looked up and saw only the dim, warped reflections of treetops and drifting clouds in the glass face of Sunset Towers. You're really in luck, Barney Northrop said for the 6th and last time. There's only one apartment left, but you'll love it. It was meant for you. He flung open the door to a 1-bedroom apartment in the rear. Now, is this breathtaking or is this breathtaking? Not especially, Seidel Pulaski replied as she blinked into the rays of the summer sun setting behind the parking lot. She had waited all these years for a place of her own, and here it was, in an elegant building where rich people lived. But she wanted a lake view. The front apartments are taken, Barney Northrop said. Besides, the rent's too steep for a secretary's salary. Believe me, you'll get the same luxuries here at 1/3 of the price. At least the view from the side window was pleasant. Are you sure nobody can see in? Seidel Pulaski asked. Absolutely, Barney Northrop said, following her suspicious stare to the mansion on the north cliff. That's just the old Westinghouse up there. It hasn't been lived in for 15 years. Well, I'll have to think it over. I have 20 people begging for this apartment, Barney Northrop said, lying through his buck teeth. Take it or leave it. I'll take it. Whatever else he was, Barney Northrop was a good salesman. And one day he had rented all of Sunset Towers to the people whose names were already printed on the mailbox in an alcove off the lobby. Office, Dr. Wexler. Lobby, Theodorakis Coffee Shop. 2C, F. Baumbach. 2D, Theodorakis. 3C, S. Pulaski. 3D, Wexler. 4C, Who. 4D, J.J. Ford. 5, Shinhu's Restaurant. Who were these people? These specially selected tenants? They were mothers and fathers and children. A dressmaker, a secretary, an inventor, a doctor, a judge. Oh, and yes, one was a bookie, one was a burglar, one was a bomber, and one was a mistake. Barney Northrop had rented one of the apartments to the wrong person. You guys, if you want to know what happens to these people when they finally move into the apartment and what, in fact, is the Weston game, pick up a copy and dive right in. Then be sure to come back each week for another First Chapter Friday video. I'll see you here again next time. Happy reading! To continue reading the Newbery Award-winning book, The Weston Game by Ellen Raskin, pick up a copy from your school library, purchase one from a local indie bookstore, or grab it via the link in the description box. Then be sure to check out the rest of the playlist. I have over 100 novels waiting for you. This week's mystery quote says, "Life is senseless unless you know who you are, what you want, and which way the wind blows." Thanks so much for stopping by my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd. I hope I'll see you again for another First Chapter Friday video. Be sure to check out these other places online for more great content. See you again next time, and happy reading.